Well, welcome to Facebook 101. I'm Danae Wolf with our Learning and Org Development Unit. Most of our LOD staff are on the onboarding call right now. Debbie Lewis is here with us. She'll be helping moderate the chat as we go through, so feel free to post questions in the chat box, and I will also try to monitor that as we go too. Lots of great information that you guys are posting in the chat box for what you're hoping to get out of this session. We already have almost 80 people on the call, so that's awesome too. Before we jump in, I need to kind of give the disclaimer that I'm going to be going over some Facebook page is where we're going to spend the majority of our time. So these are our public facing Facebook pages. I do not manage any Facebook page on behalf of OSU Extension. So I'm going to be using a page that I manage for some of my personal work, which has pretty high engagement to kind of show you what that interface looks like. Just know that it's not branded for Ohio State because it is not technically an Ohio State page, but it's what I have access to for the purpose of teaching this class. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to share, of course, Facebook. I also have to give the disclaimer that don't hold me responsible for any content that you see appear in my Facebook newsfeed that other people have posted. Of course, we all have content that appear in our social media newsfeeds that are not content that we have posted, but that our friends might post. And sometimes it's not always language appropriate or appropriate. So just try not to hold me accountable for anything that you might see like from my newsfeed. Just a good disclaimer to tell people as you're thinking about Facebook. So how many of you, by raise of hands, and I'm going to try to bring up my participant window here. How many of you, by raise of hands, manage a Facebook page? And you can raise your hand in the participant window, and I'm seeing a lot of those come in. You can also, if you have your video feed on, you can actually physically raise your hand and I can see you. So I'm seeing a lot of people, so that's great. In order to manage a Facebook page, you do have to have a Facebook account. I've gotten questions in the past from people saying, I want to create a page for my unit or my department, but I don't want to have to join Facebook. I don't want to have to create a personal profile to do that. As far as I know, it's always been the case that you have to have a personal profile to manage a page. Now, I wanted to start by telling a little bit about the difference between your Facebook profile, your Facebook page, and a Facebook group, because we tend to have a lot of miscommunication about what these things are. For example, a lot of people call Facebook groups Facebook group pages, and I would encourage you to not use the word page when you are referring to a group, because groups are just that, they are groups. We do have, and I'll navigate here now we do have an OSU Extension Learning and Org Development group. Groups can be open or private. Private groups, you do have to request membership. People cannot see the content posted unless they are a member of that group. Open groups, anybody can see the content, but you can still put some safeguards in there to moderate membership. So it's not like you can just join a group. You typically have to be moderator approved. And if you start a group, you as the administrator have control over who gets in, who gets approved. You can also set some moderation controls for who is allowed to post and whether those posts have to be administrator approved before actually populating to the group. We're not going to spend a ton of time talking about groups, but I will say they are a really great option for some of your built-in audiences. So for example, for those of you working with 4-H programs, you might start a group for your 4-H advisors or your 4-H camp counselors. For those of you managing like Master Gardener groups, you may have a group specific for your Master Gardener volunteers. I used to do that when I was a county educator. And it worked as just a really good sort of informal space to share content. Can we start a new Facebook group, or is that considered a page? Somebody asked. Per our university social media guidelines, any Facebook group that is private, that is really geared towards one of those like internal audiences, does not technically qualify as relating to that social media policy based on my interpretation of our university policy. If you're starting a group and it's going to be an open group that everybody like from your community is going to be a member of, that would qualify then as what they traditionally call a page, even though it's a group. And that would have to go through the approval process from my understanding. But if you're starting a group just to use that as an internal communication space for like your Master Gardeners, from my understanding, that would be allowable. You might want to touch base though with Cheryl Buck, who has sort of been our point person for the social media guidelines, or Mitch Mosier in the college, who is a social media specialist for the college, and they would be able to provide some additional insight there and guidance. So again, groups are great for internal audiences that might be like built-in audiences. Then you have your Facebook profile. So your Facebook profile represents you as an individual person. This is me as Danae Wolf. And this is your sort of space to curate content that you want to curate. It looks somewhat similar to a page because you have your cover photo, you have your profile photo, you can have information about you. You have some privacy controls. So anything that you post, you can only post it out to limited groups. You can make it completely public so anybody out there can see it and search for it. That is up to you. But where we are going to be spending the majority of our time is on a Facebook page. And as I mentioned, I don't have an OSU Extension Facebook page. I have my insect photography page. I do a lot of conservation work in insects and spiders and backyard conservation, landscaping, things like that. So this is the page that I use to do this. I launched this page officially last May, like late May. So we're almost coming up on a year here, and I tend to get really, really good engagement on this page. So I'm going to kind of share some of the insights that I have learned over the years. I've been managing Facebook pages for almost the last 10 years, and I've learned a lot. And I was really excited to launch Chasing Bugs because I took everything that I've learned and then like launched this brand new page, and I've gotten really great engagement. So we will start with just the very, very basics. This is what your page layout looks like. You have your profile photo, you have your cover photo. All right, we're going to jump back into Facebook here. Hopefully, third time is a charm. All right, so where were we? Text only posts. The other options that you have, for those of you who may have just joined us, we have a poop emojis in the background here. We were commenting on how this could be sort of a silly or genuine way if you were maybe doing like a manure composting program. Otherwise, it's probably not the most appropriate. So you could do some other silly things here. The other options that you have to post in the Facebook portal on your desktop application or your just a web browser is pretty limited. Notice how Facebook is now recommending that you use Creator Studio. So they're kind of pushing people towards this Creator Studio to do different types of posts. If you click that link, it's going to open up a new tab in your web browser, and it's going to give you access now to, again, what they call Creator Studio, where you sort of get a full snapshot. You get some insights, you get some more information about your page, and here you now have all of these additional options for content that you can post to Facebook. You can post a video, share a photo, you can do a poll, which we did not have that option of doing a poll when we were just in Facebook and not in Creator Studio. So the polling option is really great because this is a really great way to actually get people to engage with your post without having to beg for engagement. What we tend to tell people in articles that I've seen say, you don't want to ask people explicitly to like your post, to comment on your post, to share your post, because when Facebook sees that, they say, if you're just begging for engagement, we're not going to push your post out to your audiences. So they don't like the beggars from what we hear. So try to avoid that. But offering a poll, and you might even say like, hey, we're considering, especially now that we're doing a lot of virtual programming, you could say we're considering 2 different options for a virtual program. You know, here are 2 options for time, or here are 4 options for time. When would you like to see us, you know, have this program? And then you would choose the most popular option. The other thing that you can do here, you have the option to post multimedia. And I want to explore this a little bit with you because this is it's a really cool feature that I've never really seen exist before. But what this allows you to do is take both photos and video and external links and create a single post with all of these different types of media. So if you wanted to create, let's say, create an instant experience, is that 4th option there. And if you do this select a canvas option and do the plus button, it'll open up a new window here. And you have the option of adding what you want to post. So I was thinking earlier, what might you use this for? Well, let's say spotted lanternfly, an invasive insect that we're all really nervous is going to come to Ohio. It's in eastern PA, and it's just kind of it's in western PA. It's just a matter of time probably before it hits Ohio. Well, you could create a little pre-recorded video of yourself using even something as simple as Zoom, introducing the topic of spotted lanternfly, and then you can post that alongside several photos of different developmental stages of the insect, and then you could also add a button that goes to maybe an external fact sheet that you've written. So you create this whole experience. It's not just a photo, it's not just a video, it's not just a link, but it's all of those together in one post. So it's a really cool way to sort of create that multimedia experience for your users. So I'd encourage you to check that out. You can also do advertisements. So one of the things that's in the new university social media policy is they want you to potentially, it's not like required, but they do say that in order to really get maximum engagement, you should be creating advertisements for your page. I'm here to tell you that you can get really great engagement without having to pay for it, but you have to be consistent, and you have to create high quality content on a regular basis, which sometimes sounds really hard to do, but it doesn't have to be. And we'll talk about strategies for that in a bit. The other thing I wanted to point out here though, is if you were on the Facebook Live session that we did last week, you may have noticed that if you're gonna go live, you can go live on a mobile device, which tends to be the easiest because it's all just built into your mobile device. The other thing that you can do is log into your Facebook on a desktop. If you click this live video button, it's gonna open up a whole new window called Live Producer. And this is the interface through which you can now do Facebook Live, but you can do it from your desktop instead of being on a mobile device. The other thing that this allows you to do is actually share your desktop screen. So it doesn't just have to be your camera, your video feed, you can actually share your desktop. I can't do this in the web browser that I'm currently using, but you would choose here the camera feature, and it would basically open up my camera. Again, this doesn't work in Safari for Mac users. Chrome is a really good option for web browsers if you're gonna go this route. Like I said, we had a whole session last week on Facebook Live. So if you want more information on Live specifically, I'd recommend watching that recording, which is up on our LOD website. So any questions about Creator Studio and then Facebook Live that we could answer here kind of quickly?
Mimi Rose posted in the chat box, she's interested in learning how extension clientele are using social media. Mimi, I think one of the sessions that Danae did either earlier this week or last week, they're all kind of running together now. She did talk about the demographics of the different groups that are using the different social media platforms. So that would probably be a good place for you to start. If I can remember which recording that was, I will point you to it.
Yeah, so Debbie, that was our strategic engagement session on Monday, and that is up on the website now, and it's on our YouTube channel. It wasn't, Mimi, it wasn't so specific to like extension clientele. It was more like broad level demographics. But we could probably pull together maybe even like a panel of extension folks who have had really high engagement on their Facebook pages, and maybe see how exactly extension clientele are doing that. That's a great idea. The other thing I wanted to, yeah.
Sorry, Danae, before you move forward, will you just move through, this is Margaret, will you please move through what you just did, those buttons you all pressed in the center when you created the post, and I've tried.
Yeah. Oops. So did you want to get to Creator Studio? Is that what you were talking about?
Yes, I couldn't remember how you did that.
Yeah, so when you go to write post, so if you are just on your Facebook page and you click in this write a post, click your cursor, and then it'll, here at the bottom, it'll say post scheduling and additional options are available in Creator Studio. So you just, and you should just be able to, you could navigate directly to Creator Studio. I usually just Google it. Most of what I'm doing, I don't go through Studio. I just do like posts. In fact, a lot of what I do is from a mobile device. But if I were to do that multimedia experience, then you do have to use Creator Studio. So you click that, it's going to open up a whole new tab for you, a whole new window. And this is where now you have different options. And I'm not going to go through like the ins and outs of Creator Studio. There's a lot of other information, like you can see some of your insights here. We will dive into Facebook Insights here at the end of this conversation, just to give you some high level overview of what's available there in terms of your analytics and your reach and engagement. So yeah, this is how you would access that Creator Studio, Margaret. And then if you wanted to do your live video, you would click this button here over on the right, live video, and then it opens up another tab, which is your live producer. And that's what Facebook is using to now push all desktop live videos through.
Since this is a Facebook 101 session, I've never actually used Facebook. To get all these features that you're talking about right now, Danae, you have to be either the manager, the owner of the page that you're trying to to do this stuff on.
Very,
Okay.
very good point, Debbie. Yeah. So you do have to be the page administrator, and there are a variety of roles that you can have on Facebook. So you could be I think an editor, which allows you to create and post content. There are other page roles that are just like moderator, in which case I think you can only like respond to people's comments on posts. Like there's certain limitations similar to what we have in like WordPress sites and other similar platforms. I did post a link for anybody who is like, we have some extra time on our hands and I really want to dig into Facebook and like engagement on Facebook. Facebook now has what they call Facebook Blueprint, which is basically an entire like online courses on how to use Facebook, how to grow your audience, how to do like engagement, how to do advertisements. So it's a whole website on its own. It is linked on our LOD website, so I'll try to put that link in the chat at the end of this session, but it's really good because they have like videos and like different modules that you can take for really understanding the ins and outs. Sometimes, and I'll just kind of give you this little anecdote. Years ago when I started teaching Facebook, I remember thinking like, is this really this difficult? Like, so many people are like, Facebook is so confusing, it's so hard to do. I've been using Facebook since the year after it came out, right? I've been on Facebook now it came out like 2004, so I've been on it since 2005. It's been 15 years. Right? So that's like almost half of my life, which is hard to imagine. Like Facebook is easy to me because I've used it for half my life. Then Snapchat came out and like everybody else, I downloaded it and I was like, oh, how hard can this be? I was so frustrated with Snapchat because I'm like it's the interface is completely different than like what you're accustomed to in like a scrolling social media platform. And I remember thinking like, this is what everybody else feels like. Those people who don't use Facebook on a regular basis, this is what they feel like. This is this frustration. And it really helped me to understand. Facebook can be very overwhelming now more than ever, as a lot of really, really big businesses are using it as their primary engagement platform. Facebook is so robust. There are so many nuances to this platform, and it can be really difficult to really understand the whole thing. The good news is you don't have to understand all the ins and outs. You don't have to understand the advertising and the marketing. As long as golden rule, as long as you are posting pretty high quality content on a regular basis. So what does high quality content mean? Well, let me throw this question out to all of you. For those of you who are actively on Facebook, what types of content do you enjoy the most? And you can throw answers in the chat. You can unmute yourself. Non-political. That's a good one. Videos, photos, blog posts, anything funny. Yes, videos and photos. So generally speaking, video is king of content. Like videos tend to get the most engagement, but that is, Brian said cat videos. Yes, cat videos are definitely the single best content out there. People love things like memes. People love funny. People love genuine. This is important to note because anecdotally, what I have experienced from my peers on Facebook, as far as extension like pages go, and this is not true of just here in Ohio, but it's true across a lot of different states, we tend to view our use of Facebook sort of in this little sterile silo of like higher education, super serious, business all the time, can't be funny, can't be genuine. Everything has to be branded, everything has to be tight. That's not how most people are accustomed to interacting with social media. Social media is meant to be a little bit more fluid. It's meant to be genuine. It's meant to be off the cuff. It's meant to be funny. And that's why if you think about some of the most viral posts that have ever come across Facebook, when you think about that, what are some of the most viral posts that you have engaged with? Some of the most viral content that you can think about. I remember that video. I remember that thing. Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda's been all over the place, right? Yes. I think about Chewbacca mom, right? The woman who went into, I think it was a Kohl's, and bought this Chewbacca mask that made noise when you put it on. And she was so excited to open that thing up that she gets into her car. She opens it up in the car. She starts recording herself on a Facebook Live with this mask on. And that went so viral so fast. And she was invited on Ellen DeGeneres and all this stuff. Oh my gosh, Chrissy said that the Tiger King memes. if I see one more Tiger King meme on my Facebook newsfeed, I'm gonna go crazy. It's constant, right? It's never enough. It's so important for us to have a pulse on some of this stuff, because if we can find a way to capitalize on some of the viral content and make it extension related, that's one of the things that we can do to get high quality engagement. It also shows our audiences that we're on the pulse of what's happening in your life every day, even if it's just funny or silly content. So it's important to have a pulse on that stuff. That's not going to be everything that you post, right? You're not going to turn your extension page into just this like, oh, we're just going to post a bunch of viral memes all the time. But if you can find a way to tap into that, you're going to grow your engagement. Some of the other things that I will mention here. You may have heard about Facebook's super secret algorithms. It's how they decide who sees what content. And even though you follow people, you're friends with people, and even though you follow pages, you're likely not seeing much of those people's content or pages' content appear in your newsfeed, excuse me. You're really only seeing the content from pages and people that you interact with and engage with on a regular basis. So have you ever been in a situation where you're like sitting around, you're scrolling through Facebook, and you think to yourself, I haven't heard from this person, my friend, in a really long time. And you think, I haven't seen their stuff show up in my newsfeed. So you go to their Facebook profile and you're thinking that they haven't posted anything. In reality, they've been posting all along. You just haven't been seeing it. Chances are that's because you weren't interacting with that content. You weren't liking it. You weren't sharing it. You weren't clicking it or commenting on it. And because of that, Facebook was like, well, you're probably not really that great of friends with this person because you never engage with them. So they stop showing you that person's content. The same thing happens with Facebook pages. So you might have 1,000 followers. Facebook, statistically, what we're hearing is only 2 to 5% of your followers, of your page likes, basically, are going to actually see your content show up in their newsfeed. 2 to 5%. So you're probably thinking, why on earth would I even spend time on Facebook if that few people are actually seeing my content? You can find a way to jack that engagement really, really up. I think my engagement rates tend to hover in like the 15 to 20% on my page because you post consistent content. And the single best way to get that engagement is to post content that people want to engage with. That doesn't mean you're only going to publish PDF flyers. You can't even publish PDFs on a page, JPEG flyers for a face-to-face program. You might post some of that stuff, but how many people are going to like or react to or comment on a flyer for a face-to-face event? Probably not many. Some people might share it, and that's great. But if you post a really funny meme, people are going to react to it. And that tells Facebook, this person likes this page. And now Facebook is going to feed that person more of your content. So the next time you post, that person is more likely to see that content appear. The other rule of thumb is to post content that's highly shareable. You don't want people to just react to the post. You want them to share the post with their friends and followers or on their page. And if you can get to a point where pages are sharing your content, pages that have maybe 50,000 followers or 100,000 followers, all of a sudden now your content is getting seen to a much, much broader audience. But that means that the content that you create has to be pretty high quality. Any questions so far? Because I'm kind of covering a lot of ground here. So feel free to just keep those questions coming in the chat. And Debbie and I are sort of keeping an eye on that chat box. So I have a lot to talk about, and it's sort of sometimes hard to wrap your head around everything all at once. Some of the strategies that I have used to grow my audience on Facebook is, again, rule of thumb is just post high quality content consistently. I try to post, and this, I don't want anybody to have a heart attack when I say this, but I try to post at least 2 to 3 times a day. Sometimes I might post 5 or 6 times a day. I think generally a lot of people in the past have been told try to post 2 to 3 times a week. You can do that and you can still get really high engagement from that, but the content that you post really has to be engaging. So keep that in mind. The more you post, the more chances people have to interact and engage with your content. So the more chances that your page is going to be able to grow in terms of audience base. So a couple other things about audience growth. Before we really hit that, I want to showcase a couple different numbers here. If you are logged into your Facebook page, you'll see you have two sort of different numbers. One is followers. That's the number of people that have followed your page. The other one is page likes. We tend to chase page likes. We tend to want all the, as many likes as possible. Likes does not equate to engagement. There is not an inherent relationship there. Hopefully there will be, but in many situations, the engagement rate is pretty abysmal on a lot of pages, even if they have a really, really high number of likes. Anybody who follows your page, anybody who likes your page but chooses to unfollow it is basically little more than a ghost on Facebook. So notice how in my case, and in some cases on other extension pages I've seen this, I have more page followers than I have page likes. That's good. That's the number of people who are saying, I want to see this content show up in my newsfeed. They still might not. There's no guarantee that Facebook is going to push my content to those people, but they're saying, I want to follow the content of this page. If you are in a situation where you have, let's say you have 1,000 page likes, but you only have 500 page followers, that means you have 500 ghosts, 500 people who are never going to see your page content because they've chosen to unfollow you for one reason or another. On my page, for example, I have some family members who are like, oh, I want to support you, so I'll like your page, but I really don't want to see pictures of bugs every day. So they unfollow it. And they're little more than a ghost then, because they're never going to see my content. They're never going to interact with it. So that's a difference between those two numbers. Questions about that?
Danae, Margaret did have a general question she posted in the chat box. Is there a 0.5 version of Facebook available?
Margaret, do you mean a more basic version than this? Or would that be slightly more advanced, but not super advanced?
No, I'm wondering if you have some tutorials that are more basic than what you're doing right now. I understand that the need you're showing and the effectiveness of it and how widely it's distributed and used, but just the nuts and bolts of really using it and understanding.
Yes. Yeah, so that is where I would send you to that Facebook blueprint, the getting started with pages, because they will walk you through the very, very basics of getting started with your page. Yes. So again, I think Debbie posted the link in the chat box a bit ago.
I did. And I also the one that I just posted, Margaret, if you look at that page and you scroll down to the Facebook section, that very first link that says getting started with pages in Facebook, or get started with Facebook pages, that points you to the Facebook blueprint as well.
Yeah, so Margaret, that's that they offer some of the really basic modules for that you can kind of walk through step by step to get started with some of the technical aspects of getting accustomed to Facebook pages. And if you would like to just sit down for an individualized, smaller workshop with just a few people or just me and you, we'd be happy to do that as well. We can accommodate that.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. I know it seems like a lot, and that's sometimes it seems like I'm being too basic, this isn't enough information, and then a lot of people are this is way more advanced than I was even hoping for, and sometimes it's difficult to strike that balance. But please reach out with specific questions or needs, and we will do everything we can to accommodate those. So some tips and tricks that I want to share for how I've been able to grow my audience over the last not quite a year on this page. One of the single best ways, and this is going to seem kind of sneaky and selfish, I will post content to my Facebook page, and then I have a whole host of groups that I am in that relate to entomology and insects, and I'm in some entomology meme groups. Not only do I find a lot of really great content that I can then curate to my page from those groups, but on the converse, I can publish my posts, I can share my posts into those groups that have massive audiences. So now all of a sudden, if I posted a picture of a bug here, and let's just go through, I created you know, this stupid meme earlier today about mosquitoes waking up and saying, where are all the humans, right? Just something super silly and funny. I could click the share button and I could share in a group that I'm in. So if I wanted to share this, I would share it as me, and I would type in the group name. This entomology group has like 150,000 members in it. So all of a sudden, this post that is only going to my 8,000 followers is now going to be seen by over 150,000 people who are likely going to share the post, react to the post, and then they're going to say, oh, hey, chasing bugs, that's about bugs. I like bugs. And they're going to come to my page and they're going to follow my page, hopefully. It doesn't happen every time, right? You don't want to get to a point where you're doing this all the time with every single thing that you post. But for those of you who might work in agriculture, you might follow some local ag groups or some statewide ag groups and create a relationship in those groups, post high quality content. It's give and take. Again, you don't just want to throw your content in there all the time. You also want to spend some time understanding the group rules, making sure that you're not breaking any rules, which sometimes happen. Some groups don't want you to share content from your page, and they will explicitly state that in their group rules. Don't break the group rules or you will get kicked out. For those of you who work in like family and consumer sciences, you might follow some local like health and wellness pages, and you might post like a great infographic about hand washing that you create, and then you share that infographic in that health and wellness group, and all of those people get to see it, and then they share it out to their followers. It creates this sort of snowball effect, and that's exactly what you want on Facebook. And as I mentioned, the other huge tip that I have, and this goes back to a question that somebody asked on Monday, is how do I feel about content creation versus content curation? I mentioned that I'm posting on my Facebook page at least 2 to 3 times a day. That's what I try to aim for. That does not mean that I am creating 3 new, unique, original posts every single day. There are days that the only things that I am posting on my Facebook page is content that I am curating from someplace else. So how do you curate content from elsewhere? The best way to do that is to get on Facebook and follow some pages that are posting relevant content. So if you're in health and wellness, you would go and follow some reputable, and that's a keyword here, reputable science-based sources of information. This could be government sites, it could be other .edu sites, it could be other extension organizations or other local county extension pages. You follow those pages, and then you're going to see those pages posts show up in your newsfeed. So it's 10 p.m. at night, you're getting ready for bed, you're scrolling through Facebook, and you say, oh, haha, here's a funny meme that I think my audience is going to like. You hit the share button, you share it to your audience, 10 seconds, you're in and out, you've just created a post for the day. It doesn't have to be complicated. I like to tell people, and I don't want this to like seem overwhelming or like maybe just pitiful, but I like to tell people that like the social media tab is always open in my brain. So it's never something that shuts off, which you're probably like, oh, what a sad life you live. You're like obsessed with social media. In reality, what I mean by that is like, I see opportunities for content creation everywhere I go, right? So if I'm scrolling through social media and I see a really great article that I think my followers will like, all you have to do is share it. And it just takes seconds to do. But you do have to be following some good reputable resources for that to happen and for that to happen well. It doesn't have to be too difficult though. So Julie asked if you share, if you're sharing like another page's comment or content, was
Correct.
that?
Yeah. Do you always make a comment yourself, or do you, because it always says, say something about this post
Yes.
when I share it. And I
Yes.
didn't know, is it better to say something?
Always. It's always better to say something. I see that happening a lot with actually some of our extension pages where they are just frivolously sharing content with no context whatsoever. And I wonder, why did you share this? Like, why is this relevant to your audience? You need to make it explicit why you're sharing it. And sometimes if you're sharing like a meme, sometimes the only thing you put is like a laughing, crying face just to show people like, I thought this was funny. And if you're sharing like an article from another page, you might say like, hey, this is relevant for XYZ reasons. So that's, yes, the context is going to be really important. Another question, is there a way to schedule shared posts or save posts you want to share at some point? So yes, Kim, this is actually another great point. Thank you for mentioning it. If you are scrolling through your Facebook newsfeed So great post from the Xerces Society. This is a page that's all about insect and invertebrate conservation. If I want to share this out, if I want to save this link for later, because I don't want to share it now because I just made a post I didn't actually, but if I just made a post 5 minutes ago, I don't want to keep spamming my followers. You would click the 3 dots in the post. You can do this on a mobile device as well and click Save Post, and then it'll save it. You can also add it to a collection. So right now I have Chasing Bugs content, and that is where I continually share, or save for myself content that I want to be able to go back to. It's important for me to have a whole pool of content that I can curate from elsewhere, because if I have a day that I'm like, I just don't have time to create anything new, I don't have the energy, I don't have the desire, but I still want to keep my followers engaged, I can go to that collection of saved links and just pull something and share it. And now I have like a constant stream of content to pull from. So doesn't sharing a post versus posting the link as the original post cause less engagement with your followers? Let me read that again. Sharing a post. Yeah, so Mark, that's actually a really good point. I wanted to get into sort of best practices and how to share in a politically correct way. So generally speaking, if a page that I follow shares a link to a third-party platform, let's say they share an article from the New York Times about insect decline, and I'm like, oh, my followers are really gonna like this. If I click the share button on that post from that page, I actually have the option, and let me see if I can find like a good example of something that goes to, my newsfeed is filled with cats and bugs primarily. So I can't find anything quickly that shows like an outside link. You do have the option, at least on a mobile device, of including the original post, which will basically say this original post was posted from a page, not the link. That gets kind of confusing without actually seeing it. So we can talk more about that. Generally speaking, the most engagement that you're going to get is on those posts that you share natively to your Facebook page. So if it was a link to a New York Times article, I would open that New York Times article, I would grab that URL and I would post it natively to my page, and then I would say why I'm posting it, right? I would add some of my own unique text to that. You're going to get more engagement there. If it's something like a meme that you did not create, so let's say the Xerces Society created something really funny, it was a photo, you should not download that photo on your computer, because that's basically theft, and then re-upload it to your Facebook page, even if you provide the credit. Even if you say, hey, I grabbed this from the Xerces Society, you're basically taking the engagement away from the original content creator, and that is not okay. And I've had that happen to me before on some of my most popular posts. I've had people steal my image and download it on their computer and then re-upload it to their Facebook page because they wanted all of the engagement. And that really wasn't an okay thing to do. So keep that in mind. So Julie, once you save content, where can you find that? You should have a link over here on the left-hand side directly to your saved content. And I have several different collections. So I was starting to curate some resources about COVID-19, things that I just find inspirational. Here's my Chasing Bugs content. You can see I have 131 items in there. And these are just like memes and articles and links and stuff that I can always pull from. On a mobile device, I believe there is like a ... Sorry, it's the 3 lines. 3 lines, scroll down. You probably can't see this super well. I could share my phone, and then I have a saved button here, and I get to go directly to my saved content. So same idea. And then you can pull from that and post that. So Margaret asked, can I demonstrate what I'm talking about? Margaret, I'm assuming you want me to demonstrate the sort of share content. So let's go to the Xerces Society.
You did it right there just a minute ago when you went over and you showed me where the saved button was. And I didn't know it was there. And so that's what I meant as you were talking about these things. You said to put it in your saved, and then my thought was, well,
where do you get it?
And then you showed us where it was. So that's what I meant.
Yes, I apologize for that. Sometimes I go through it so fast that I forget to share it. Like, now that you've saved it, where do you access it? So here's a good example to the Xerces Society posted this external link. In this case, the link goes to their website, but it's still outside of the Facebook platform. So if I wanted to share this, there's a bunch of different options that pop up. I can share now to my friends, which is going to share to my personal timeline, which is my Danae Wolf timeline. I can share it to my story, send as a private message, share in a group, blah, blah, blah. Share to a page is what you're going to want. And here you have this little button that says include original post. If you click that, it's going to show that this link comes from the Xerces Society. So this is important to consider, because if you include the link to the Xerces Society, now when people share this post to their friends from your page, they're actually sharing the original post from the Xerces Society. They're not sharing the post from your page, which will reduce your engagement on this individual post. It's not going to reduce your overall engagement. So if you don't do that, it's going to show as just a link. What I typically do is I would open the link here, and then I would grab the URL, I would copy that, I'd come back to Facebook, I'd go to my page, and then I would post that just to ensure that that link is now coming back to my page. For whatever reason, it doesn't really love that link and it's showing up as my logo instead of the link. I'm not sure what's going on there. That should not look like that, but we don't have time to figure that out right now. That's the other thing I'll mention here though is, I think it was Lynette, you had asked earlier, a lot of the content that you share might be coming from like the plain dealer. When you post a link on Facebook, you don't have to keep the active link there. So it should populate a link down here to the content, and then you delete the URL. So you don't need all that ugliness by having the URL. So you delete that, and then you type whatever you want to type. Here's my super witty, funny comment, post, context, whatever. Another question, once you use a saved item, is it removed? No. So that's the other thing to be aware of. When you save an item and then you decide to go back and like share that item, let's say I want to share this photo, it's not going to be removed from your saved like folder, your collection. So if you really want, like I usually am really bad at going back and then deleting that, but like to know, oh, I've already used that, don't use it again. I tend to just leave it in that file though.
Yeah, but when we use a newspaper article, I mean, we have to make sure the credit is there, correct?
Well, when you say a newspaper article, are you talking about like physically, like a physical newspaper?
Yeah, that's where my stuff comes from a lot.
Or would you be grabbing like a web link from the article?
No, I have, well, the one I posted, it just, when I pulled it up from cleveland.com, it gave the option of, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. So I just sent it over. But I mean, you have to give them credit, right?
Not if you're sharing the link. If you're sharing a link directly to their website, no, you do not need to say like this came from the plain dealer, because it's going to say that when you put the URL in. It's going to show that this is redirecting people to cleveland.com.
Okay, I posted the whole article, so.
Yeah.
Because that's all I knew how to do, because I hadn't had this class yet.
Yeah, and that's another thing to kind of keep in mind as we're sharing, and I see this happen all the time with my local newspaper, because it is like you do have to subscribe to the paper in order to access the majority of the content. And what I'll see people do is they'll go in, like the subscribers will copy and paste all of the text of an article in the comment section on that post, because they're like, I shouldn't have to pay for my news. That's not best practice. That's not generally recommended. That would also be like content theft. There's a paywall there for a reason.
I mean, I buy mine, so whatever I post, I've paid for.
Right, but if you're posting it then to a public audience, if you're copying and pasting the whole body of the text and posting that to a public audience, I think that would technically violate some copyright.
Well, yeah, except that they put the option to share via these, Facebook, Twitter, blah 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 at the bottom of the article.
Right, and that's their way of basically trying to get more subscribers, so that you can still share it to your Facebook, but if somebody else wants to access it, they might still run into that paywall. Yeah. So I covered, we only have 3 minutes left. I covered a lot of information here, and I feel like there's a ton more that we could go into, particularly insights. So in the last couple minutes here, please feel free to put information or comments and questions. I'm available to stay on after this call. So if you guys like need to get off at 2 o'clock, feel free to go ahead and go off and send us like follow-up questions. Otherwise, I'll be on and I'll continue teaching for anybody who wants to stay on with me. Mark asked, sometimes when I post, the post doesn't show up right away. When I try to go somewhere, it warns me that I'm leaving the page. That's hard to say what's going on, Mark. So basically you try to post it, but it's not populating right away. It could be that Facebook servers are overloaded for some reason or another, and it's not populating that content. So yeah, unfortunately, any questions that you run into that are like super technical issues with Facebook, you may have to submit a ticket directly to Facebook to figure out what's going on. We've had a couple folks that have had to do that with questions about Facebook Live, because the live feature wasn't even like showing up as an option for them to do, or it wasn't working for some reason or another. Unfortunately, we are not in a position to like dig into your Facebook account and figure out some of those technical issues. I wish we were. So you may have to submit a ticket and we can try to figure out what's going on there. I did want to spend a few minutes though here, and I'll keep the recording going on Insights. Insights basically tells you what your reach and engagement looks like. If you just click the Insights, and I'll navigate back to my page. Insights is a button here at the top of your page. And if you just click that, it'll show you that your first sort of default Insights page shows you a broad overview of what your reach and engagement looks like. You can change this page summary. So you can look at today's insights, yesterday, the last 7 days. I usually like to look at the last month, right? So the last 28 days. To see where my post reach has been. Right now, I'm 56% down from where I was based on probably the prior 28 days. So that means I'm not doing super great with comparison to how I've done in the past. So it's kind of good for you to see that. In the last 28 days, I've gotten 481 new page likes, which again is down almost, more than 50%. What I really like to do though is if you look at your 5 most recent posts, and you go down to see all posts, you can scroll down here and see where your most engaging posts were. And you can also see what kind of content it was that you posted. So it'll tell you most of my posts, because I'm a photographer, most of them are falling in the photo category, but some of them are links to external articles or external websites. Here are text-based posts, so anything that's just a status was just text with no photo, no video, or no link. Here's a video that I posted. This was a share from someplace else. It gives you a really good snapshot though of where your most engagement is coming from. So if you see like my video content, man, really isn't getting a lot of engagement and we're spending a lot of time creating and curating these videos, maybe you don't do a lot of video content anymore.
But everything's skewed right now. I mean, because people are home that weren't home. And I mean, you couldn't put any, you couldn't say this is the way that it will be.
Yeah, I would, sometimes it depends on that. I would say a lot of people use Facebook even I hate to admit this, but even like in a traditional work setting, like a lot of people are on Facebook throughout the day anyway, right? They're checking at breakfast or checking at lunch or checking at every break. So it may not be a super accurate indicator, but you can scroll back through here and see, I don't know how far back you can actually go. You can export an Excel file of your data. And if you go back to overview, so this overview tab on the left-hand side, you can export your page data. And this gives you like a raw snapshot of way more information than you will ever know what to use this information for. I like to do this like once every 6 months because that is the date range that you can go back to. And you can do 500 posts at a time. So you can only go back to 6 months and then it will export documents in 500 posts at a time. It's a good idea to do this, like put it on your calendar and export this data just so that you have it. So you can see what your page likes have looked like over time. You can see where your engagement has been over time. Let's see what else I wanted to show you. You can do some comparisons. So you might, for those extension offices, like in a particular area, you might do like your entire area and have like a little friendly competition to see like who's getting the most engagement on their county extension page. So you would add those neighboring county extension pages to your pages to watch. and it doesn't notify those pages that you're watching them. It's just a little snapshot for you, and it shows me where my engagement is related to these other pages. So the Xerces Society, this is good to know, they have 36.6 thousand likes on their Facebook page compared to only my 8,000. But if you look at my engagement rate, it's quite a bit higher than theirs is. So it's just kind of good for you to see that snapshot. And again, you may have like a little friendly competition with your neighboring Facebook County Extension pages to see how you can increase that engagement. The last thing I will show you here on Insights is the tab for people. So if you navigate to that left-hand menu and click people, this will give you a snapshot of the demographics of people following your page, and it breaks it down by geographic location. For many of you working in county offices, the primary audience will probably be geographically close to where you are. So they're probably all going to be coming from like your county, maybe fanned out a little bit. For anybody managing a statewide page, you might see a more broad audience across Ohio. Most of my audience comes from the US, and then I have people from really all over the world that follow this page. But what I'm most interested in is sort of the age demographic, because that helps me know what type of content I should be posting. So you can look at your fans, and Facebook says that a fan is the number of people who saw any of your posts at least once, grouped by age and gender. You can view this by followers. You can view this by people reached. So this would be anybody who's seeing your content show up in their newsfeed. Or what I'm most interested in is the people who are engaged. These are people who liked, clicked, shared, or commented on my post. And the majority of those fall within this 25 to 34 age range. That helps me know that maybe it's okay to post a lot of funny content, because this group might like funny content, maybe older, maybe more than some of the older demographics. Not all funny content is going to land well with people. I posted a stupid meme a couple of months ago. It was like a giant beetle grub, like a huge like beetle larvae. And somebody made a comment like, this is how like croissants are made. It was something really stupid. And I had several people who commented like, that is so like what an awful post to make, like that you're eating this grub. So not all humor is going to land with people in the same way. And it's helpful to know your demographic to understand what content you should be posting. The other thing that you can, where was that at? In one of these, you can actually see when people are spending time on your page. And I can't remember what tab that's under. Oh, it's under posts. So you can see by day of the week, how many people are spending time on Facebook. You can also see by time of day when people are spending the most time on Facebook. This is based on your page followers. The reason why this is good is because if you have like big spikes over the lunch break, or if you have big spikes in the evening, post your content during that time. And don't post it when nobody's online. The other thing I will mention here is you can schedule posts to publish at a later time. In my experience, anytime I publish something to go out at a scheduled time, I get far less engagement on anything that I schedule. I don't know why that is, but it's been the case for years. I've heard other anecdotal evidence of the same thing happening on other county extension pages. So I try not to schedule anything. I try to post like here and now, always. But you don't have to. You can play around with the scheduling feature. What questions do you have? I know that's a lot of information, and we could spend 3 more hours, really. So good question. So when I post something regularly, do I use the same graphic over and over to let people know? That's really up to you. It's sort of a personal preference. I would say it's kind of based on your audience. If you're trying to create that sort of brand recognition, and you're trying to create the recognition that like, this is a regular occurrence, you can absolutely do that. The other thing that you might consider is Facebook doesn't always, and we didn't even talk about this, Facebook doesn't always play nicely with some third-party links. For example, they hate when you post a link to YouTube because they are direct competitors with YouTube. So if you try to post like a Zoom link, if you try to post a YouTube link, Facebook is going to deprioritize that content and is not going to push that content to your followers. So some of the ways that you can get around this, and you'll see some really, really like social media celebrity type content creators, what they will do to get around this is they will publish something natively on Facebook. Like it could be a graphic that says like, hey, subscribe to our newsletter. And then in the comments, they post a link to the newsletter. It's their way of getting around that, like the Facebook issue of, hey, we're not gonna push this out because we want people to stay on the Facebook platform. Facebook doesn't want to take people outside of Facebook. So if all you ever do is post links to outside things, which some pages, like I've seen extension pages that's literally the only thing they post are like blog articles to outside websites, and they're not getting great engagement for that reason. So think about how you might like create a custom graphic that says, hey, new blog post about XYZ. That becomes your post, but then in the comments, you put the link to that. Seems like a little bit of extra work. Doesn't seem like it is, but it could get you a lot better engagement. So Anna asked us yesterday, I was trying to create a poll. However, that option was not available for the page. Yeah, so the poll option, Anna, you have to go through Creator Studio now to do. You cannot do it from the desktop. And we'll show again how to make that happen. So if you're on your desktop version and you go to write a post, you'll see the polling feature is not an option down here. You have to click Creator Studio. And once you open your Creator Studio, takes a while to populate, you should have the poll option here. So I hope that answers your question. So Katie asked, my insights aren't showing up on my 4-H Facebook page. Does it have something to do with the settings? Katie, as long as if you are an admin for that page and you are logged into your page, you should be seeing it. If you're not, again, technical issue, you may have to submit a ticket to Facebook to figure out what's going on there. I know that's not a super great answer. But like I said, sometimes Facebook is super fickle, and you'll go on and you're like, where is my feature to do XYZ? It was just there yesterday and now it's gone. It happens. I hate to admit that. Sometimes you just got to wait it out and it'll fix itself. Any other questions before I stop recording? And we will try to splice together these 3 sort of separate sessions that happen here today and get this recording posted online. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We are here to help you. So thanks everybody for showing up today, and get out there and create some really great content. If you have something that's like super engaging, take a screenshot of it and post it in our LOD group so that we can see what you're doing and we can get some inspiration from you all. So thanks, and we'll see you hopefully for tomorrow's session on InDesign.